let's talk about the bicep push-up again. This is what it looks like. It just is not good.
You can't expect an exercise to work well if you're simply doing it wrong.
I want to fall in that position here. Fall.
If you're simply not strong enough to stabilize yourself in these positions, you will fall.
The controversial bicep push-up. Should you do it or not? Does it even train your biceps? And is it the same thing as a pseudo-planche push-up? Let's dive into it. A while back, AthleanX, Fitness FAQs, and Calisthenics Movement had a disagreement on whether or not you should include this exercise in your routine. Now, what's interesting is that all three of these channels are led by physical therapists and experts in movement. So, let's break down their arguments and see who was right in the end. Let's start with Jeff Cavalier from AthleanX. He is of the opinion that the bicep push-up is not worth doing due to its risk-to-reward ratio being too high. He explains that it does not isolate the bicep enough since there is no supination under load, no elbow flexion, and no shoulder flexion, all of these movements being functions of the biceps brachii. Jeff states that the bicep only has a slight stabilizing role in the bicep push-up, and risk-wise, this exercise places a lot of stress on the wrists, especially on the ulnar side, according to Jeff.
You see right here, there's an area of cartilage that's very susceptible to having force placed through the wrist from a very hyperextended position.
On the other hand, Fitness FAQs and Calisthenics Movement both made a response video arguing that the bicep push-up is actually an exercise worth doing. First off, Cali Move subtly tells Jeff that his form on the bicep push-up is wrong, and that is why he doesn't get much activation from the biceps. His hands were placed too close to his shoulders, and his scapulas weren't protracted. Both of these factors diminish the leverage on the bicep muscles and thus lower the activation.
Now, when you consider all these points, the biceps push-up will work, but only if you are able to do it right.
Another point that both calisthenics channels mention is that the goal of doing the bicep push-up is not to build bigger biceps, but rather to strengthen the bicep in its stabilization role. They also stated that the bicep push-up is a great way of progressively developing straight arm strength, which is beneficial for avoiding bicep tears. As for the risk factor on the wrists, Fitness FAQs suggest to simply start with the wrists in a more neutral position and progressively increase supination.
So if you're starting in this amount of supination, it's going to be a lot easier than going to a fully supinated position. It's on you to choose a degree of difficulty that your body can tolerate.
Cali Move had the same point of view when it comes to gradual loading. They even added that any kind of push-up puts your wrists at risk if you're not prepared for the load. So why is there such a disparity in the point of views of these channels? I believe that this difference in perspective between these three experts is mainly due to the fact that Cali Move and Fitness FAQs are both calisthenics-based channels. In fact, in the calisthenics community, the bicep push-up is better known under the name of pseudo-planche push-up, and it is a very popular progression for learning planche variations. It is a staple exercise with very functional benefits relative to calisthenics, which is why these two channels felt compelled to defend its utility. On the other hand, AthleanX analyzed the exercise from a more hypertrophy-based perspective, and in that regard, the points he brings up are totally valid as well. At the end of the day, nobody is inherently right or wrong. They are just evaluating the quality of the exercise with different criteria. AthleanX is right in saying that it is not the most efficient for building bigger biceps. Cali Move and Fitness FAQs are right in saying that the bicep push-up is a great exercise for strength and stability. In my opinion, this small beef, if you can even call it that, was a little blown out of proportion because the two parties weren't really arguing about the same thing. The one argument that would maybe make me lean towards one side more than the other is the point that Cali Move made about the fact that all push-ups can be risky for your wrists if you are not prepared for the load. This is absolutely valid in my opinion. Any exercise can become risky if you don't build up to it. For example, you wouldn't let a beginner try a 225-pound bench press on his first day because obviously he's going to hurt himself. But just because some people can get hurt doing it, doesn't mean that benching 225 is inherently dangerous. It's only risky if you're not prepared for it. Same applies to the bicep push-up. Advanced calisthenics athletes don't injure themselves doing bicep push-ups because their wrists have adapted to being put under that kind of stress. Stating that certain movements are inherently bad for you or inherently dangerous is something that AthleanX has been often criticized for doing, but that is a subject for another video. That's it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think of this whole beef, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.
I got so
Peace.
much drinking me, wonder if you missing me. These days I can't fucking sleep, it's bad, I'm out here living dreams. If I send this text to mine